Greetings all, this is Hairy Nick. How are you guys? In case you guys have been living under a rock, you may have not noticed, we just had announced X-Wing version 2. Now before I start this video, I want to say I've got a bit of a sore throat. I'm speaking a bit more quietly than usual, but don't let that mislead you. I am very, very excited to talk about this. It's a lot of things for me to get through. I'm not going to cover everything in this video today, but I'm not going to analyze any of the articles in this. I just wanted to make a quick video to talk about my first impressions of what's going on here and just give you guys a bit of an indication of where I stand on this. So let's dive right into it. Without further ado, yes, I think this is a fantastic thing. I genuinely think this is a good, healthy thing for the game. Now, I will say before the announcement last night or early yesterday morning or midday, depending on where you are in the world, I was not a proponent of X-Wing 2.0. I never really supported the idea. I felt like the game had been getting more healthy, particularly with the Wave 12, 11, 14 sort of releases we were looking at. And I really did not expect to see this happen because along with the X-Wing fix, I assumed, well, why would they do a 2.0 right after the X-Wing fix? As it turns out, that fix is going to start the content for X-Wing version 2, which is awesome, by the way. I love that TIE Reaper and Saul's Renegades is going to have 2.0 content, and fingers crossed we get some more stuff before then as well. I'm not expecting like a Wave 15 in between 14 and the release of version 2, but I don't know, maybe the Scum Falcon and that kind of stuff, maybe another Ace Pack or something. It would be really cool to have some more stuff. It'd be cool to have more stuff that comes with the version 2 cards and pilot cards and all that kind of stuff. And that way we get to dip our toes in the water and sort of move into this nice and smoothly, which is fantastic. I have here in front of me the article for the announcement of version 2. Not much information here, but it does give me a few interesting talking points. Right off the bat, have a look at the models here. You can see a lot of just really cool, well thought out things. And this is my main thing when it comes to this thing. I want to quantify as best I can my opinion of this, my attitude towards this, because there are a lot of people who are very polarized one way or the other over this. A lot of us love it, as I do. A lot of us are vehemently angry about this. I don't think I can stress that enough. And I just want to encourage the people going onto various forums, my YouTube channel as well. Please don't just spam the comment sections and swear your head off. I will delete your comments. There's no point having that kind of discourse. Not because I disagree with your opinion, not by interest of imagination, but that kind of discourse just, it doesn't help the conversation at all. I will say, though, I'm not angry at those people for being like that. I understand that X-Wing has been a part of our lives for a very long time. It's been a part of my life for over 2 years now. I love the game wholeheartedly. It's the best game I've ever played, hands down. So I understand when something changes, you feel threatened. You feel like, oh, this thing that I love so much. I mean, it's taking the thing that you love so much and turning it into an unknown. And you know that you love the game so much, and you don't know about this unknown over here, so you react in a scared way. It's fine. I'm not having a go at people for reacting like that, but just be mindful of the way you're sort of interacting with other people, because a lot of us, and me included, really want to have a good chat about this, really nut this out. And that's why, guys, I'm going to be making a lot of videos on version 2, particularly over the next week. I'll do a separate video for each of the faction articles, the accessories and whatnot. Today, I just want to have a quick chat about this kind of stuff. I mean, we have here, you can see some really good basic quality of life improvements. And I think when I look at these, I realize that FFG have really learned a lot since they made X-Wing, which apparently was the first Star Wars game they made. I thought that was the LCG, but what do I know, I guess. And it's really gotten to a stage where they obviously wish they had this knowledge building the old X-Wing upgrades and whatever. For example, the X-Wing itself, if it were designed nowadays, would just come with the flip card for the S-foils. Flip cards were not a thing back in Wave 1, back when X-Wing was created. And from that point of view, it makes sense to have this reset. It's why we have Ace Packs, why we've had Ace Packs in version 1 up to this point, because it basically gives us the opportunity to take these original ships and use new design concepts on them. But now with the reset, it means with the approach, with the app, being able to alter the way ships take upgrades and stuff, and I'll talk a bit more of that in a second. They can do that on the fly, and basically any new design concept can be applied to all the ships in the game, and that is actually really significant. That goes a long way to addressing power creep, and it goes a long way to addressing ships that aren't performing well, and it means that the model of ace packs that come and update the ships one at a time, and every ship only gets one ace pack, and that's the ace pack it gets, and after that it's bad and we have to move on to the next ships. That fundamentally has changed for the better, in my opinion. That is such a good aspect of the game. They obviously realized, like me, it's a big problem. It's a big problem that they can only fix ships in this very rigid way, and only once. It's always something that's kind of bothered me, and I talked before about how I think even ships that have a fix should have another fix, but that has unique problems in itself that then you'd have two fixes on the same ship, and that would add so much complexity, and to do certain builds you have to buy two separate packs. It's unideal, and that's why I love this approach to fixing ships. In case I just skipped over this, I should mention what's going on here is now you have a app ship builder that FFG are supporting themselves, and that controls on that app how much each of the ships cost, pilots, and the upgrade cards. Also controls what upgrades the ships can take. And Alex Davies talked about this back in December when he was talking about X-Wing and Legion in an interview with Team Covenant, about how he envies video game developers who can just change things on the fly, patch video games or computer games or whatever, so that the values of like attack values and power and all that kind of stuff can change on the fly, and it doesn't affect the player experience. And the problem with physical printed media, I mean, for example, right here, engine upgrades. It gives any ship using the modification slot the boost action for 4 points. Now that's been printed. That is the rigid nature of that card, and that cannot change in the first version of X-Wing. In X-Wing 2.0, cover up that 4 points, and they can theoretically change that on the fly. That is big. That is really big, and that is a fantastic thing for fixing the game down the track if they need to, and I really, really like what they've done there. Now, they did categorically say in the press conference discussing this that they aren't going to, as they put, it's not going to be a roller coaster of points changes all year round. They're going to have scheduled dates where they choose to affect the points. Which reminds me of Magic the Gathering. They have a banned and restricted list about which cards you can and cannot take in your decks, and that's scheduled throughout the year. I think it's once every few months or something like that. I don't know, if there's any Magic players, you'd be able to correct me on that. But if they can do the same thing with X-Wing, that'd be fantastic. A lot of people are criticizing the problem with having to rely on technology and not being able to have stuff printed easily. It might create another barrier of entry. I don't know how much I agree with that. Yes, I know realistically it's not altogether fair to expect someone to have outside technology like the phone that this is recording on right now, for example, but realistically, you go to X-Wing tournaments, and I don't know about you guys, but I cannot think of a single person that I've played in X-Wing tournaments who don't own a smartphone or a computer. It's so ubiquitous these days. And the advantage it gives FFG as developers, and advantages that it gives us as players, entering into a more balanced experience, is a fantastic thing. And look, the downside of, yes, you have to have these devices with you in order to build your lists. No, you don't have to have them with you on the day, but you need to have it in order to build the list. I think it's very much outweighed by the massive upside of being able to have a game which can be balanced and just constantly adjusted as need be. It's a good, healthy thing for the game. I mean, I've made videos on certain upgrades and talked about issues. Like, I made an entire video on harpoon missiles. Imagine if they could just, out of the blue, change harpoon missiles so you must spend the target lock. Just like that. Or they made it 5 points or 6 points. Imagine if there was a living FAQ that could affect the game stats on the fly really easily. Obviously, with a printed FAQ like they have now, that's much harder to do, but through this app, through this squad builder, that's going to be much easier, and that is probably the most significant thing that's come out of this. Yes, there's rule changes towards certain things to make things more balanced, like bombs and turrets. We will talk a lot about that in upcoming videos. I just wanted to mention the most happy I am when I heard about this was talking about the app. Actually, no, that's not true. During the press conference, and this is what I've been thinking every time someone brings up X-Wing 2.0. It's like, oh my gosh, how much redundant things am I going to have entering into X-Wing 2.0? The second they said, you can buy a conversion kit and everything you have becomes compatible with X-Wing 2.0. I actually cheered right here in my study at home, this little apartment I live in. I cheered because, oh, that's the one thing that was freaking us out when it came to 2.0. We can actually use everything. Now, I will say, yes, you have to buy the conversion kits, and no, they're not cheap. And that is a concern. $50 US is a lot of money just to adapt ships that you already own. And I've seen a lot of people complain about this, and I'm kind of halfway there. I don't think $50 US is bad for what you get. There must be a lot of upgrade cards and a lot of pilot cards in that pack, and all the cardboard tokens. It is cosmetic things. It's not the ship itself. You're buying the right to have the ships you have, being able to enter into tournaments. But I guess the flip side of this is, and this is what I keep coming back to, nobody is taking away your X-Wing version 1 content. You can always play X-Wing version 1. I know it's not going to be supported in tournaments, blah, 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 all that kind of stuff. And that's not ideal. Yeah, obviously, it would be great if everything would just work moving forward, but that's an ideal world where everything's balanced and we don't need to have version 2s of things. I've been talking to a lot of local players, and I found this comment by the guy that won the Victorian Regionals, who I featured in a video recently, David Leslie, put it the best way possible. We're talking about a game that's been around for how many years? Several years. It doesn't have rotation. All the models become legal. The size of the game becomes bigger and bigger and bigger. Balancing becomes harder and harder and harder. It's never had a second edition. It's not a common practice of FFG. It was bound to have to happen one day. And look, I don't necessarily agree that now is the best time to do it. Whatever, but FFG felt like it's the best time to do it. And from what I understand of the new rules moving forward, I think it's a very good, healthy thing for the game long term. Not ideal for us who have to take a bit of a hit financially, convert everything that we have, but at least we have that option. I don't think people are fully appreciating how difficult this can be in some games, in some scenarios. Like, it can be very difficult sometimes to convert all the models you have, all the game elements you have, and a lot more could have easily been redundant. We could have had a situation where we did lose out even more financially. I know spending $50 US to unlock one of the factions that you have, in my case, I only run one faction, and yeah, it sucks for the people that run 3 factions, obviously. But I look at the realistic scenarios about how this could have been approached, and I think, I truly believe, and I know this is going to annoy a lot of people, I truly believe this is a happy medium of the way to approach this. In terms of the downside of doing this, yes, that is not insignificant. Spending $50 to get your models working with the new game isn't insignificant, but it's not crippling. It's a lot of... I am seeing some people say, oh no, this has pushed me out of the game, I can't possibly play it anymore. And yeah, okay, you're all entitled to your opinion. At the end of the day, this is a game. Our involvement with it, our opinion of it is very subjective. I don't begrudge that anyone that's saying, oh, I want to exit the game now because I don't think it's right for me or whatever. But I just want to encourage the people saying that. And I'm not angry at anyone saying that. You can have your own opinions. It's a subjective game, whatever. I just want to say there is 2 sides of the coin. There's what I call the consumer and the developer side of the coin, where we have to appreciate how things move forward. From a consumer point of view, we want everything as cheap as possible. We want the game to be as easy to access as possible, and we want the barrier of entry to be as easy as possible. And obviously, a 2.0, a version 2 rather, can be difficult. That can make things stressful. I actually don't agree with that. I believe that this will actually make the barrier of entry much easier, but from the point of view of someone that's already enfranchised in the game, that's fine. But from a development point of view, this is a fantastic thing because it lets FFG neaten up a lot of the issues the game was having, a lot of creative space that worked itself into a corner. And that, while it may seem like a financial hit right now, is very good for the game long term. I mean, looking at this image here, for example, so I know I've ignored the article, but I just want to get all these thoughts off my head. I mean, looking at the dial, green maneuvers are now blue. And this was very significant when they talked about it in the press conference, because they said green is harder for people that are colorblind to see. Blue and red are much easier to distinguish. Now, I've talked about things that I want FFG to fix up in the game, and this is something that never even occurred to me. And the fact that a detail like this was picked up on and addressed really shows how they're listening to the audience and actually improving something which is so arbitrary to a lot of us. I mean, I'm not colorblind myself, but a lot of people are. And it just really goes to show how important these basic quality of life things are for the game. I'm really appreciative of a lot of little things like that. I mean, have a look at this maneuver template, for example. They made a point of saying we're going to put a line down the center. That makes it much easier to measure when marking ships and that kind of stuff. If you have a look at the ship, for example, they all have the bullseye firing arc, or well, what was called the bullseye firing arc in version 1 marked on the ship. That means that there's creative space to move around with those mechanics if they ever want to. All ships have all 4 quadrants on it. There's little markers on to mark front and rear. And obviously all ships aren't going to use this thing, but the fact that they've printed it on all ships mean they always have that creative choice to do that one day if they want to. And that is significant moving forward. That is very good forward thinking. Okay, I've just scrolled down to this part of the page and I just want to quickly talk about this. Again, I'm not going to cover too many mechanics in this video, but force powers. Force powers are something I always felt was missing from X-Wing. And the reason I never brought it up in a video, because I never thought it was a very good thing to try and implement. Because in my mind, oh, you could have an upgrade slot that was for force powers. The problem with doing that is you'd have force powers on arbitrary pilots of different pilot skills. And I liked the way they did EPTs, how it was cleanly the top pilots of every single ship. Force powers, for example, would go on Luke Skywalker, Darth Vader, so the second highest, Kyle Katarn, again, the second highest pilot on a ship. And that's not ideal. Playing around with that creative space felt problematic in my mind. And the way they've used force powers on this, where you have like energy tokens that you have to spend, again, I'll speak more about this later on, means that it doesn't seem like a very annoying thing to interact with as an opponent. It means that you have to still balance it out. You have to still weight it with your upgrade cards and whatever. And it's the same with other cards. There's astromechs like R2-D2 that use energy. It feels like they really thought about these effects that when they are too repetitive, they cause too many issues with the game, and they've addressed it by using these energy or force tokens or whatever, and that's just really cool. And one last thing I want to mention on this screen here, we have the Wave 1 expansions. And I'm super pumped because the Protectorate Starfighter and the Fire Spray are getting a re-release. And from my point of view as a Scum player, I really want to see those ships doing well. I love both of them. They're both a lot of fun to play with. And just as the last thing I want to mention, I recently did a video on which ship should get a fix next. And I recently had the comment, somebody said, well, no ship's going to get a fix next because we're getting 2.0 and we're not going to address ship fixes until for a very long period in the future. And the reality, my response to that was, no, it's not no ship is getting a fix. Every ship is getting a fix. That's the point of what's happening here. And that means ships like the Fire Spray might become viable again. I mean, they're changing the pilots. They're adding new pilots to a lot of new different ships. They're changing the way all the ships are balanced. They're saying, they were talking about in the press conference how they're giving a lot of love to T-65 X-Wing, the A-Wing, and the Interceptor. The Interceptor guys. Basically, in terms of design in the first version of X-Wing have been pushed into a corner, and it's really hard to fix now because of where the meta is. But now we have a nature in which we can't use veteran instincts anymore. There is no veteran instincts. There's no more PS wars, so you can't outbid Sunta Fel and that kind of stuff. And that's, oh, it's so interesting. It's so interesting. I don't want to bog this video down with more discussions on that, but I just want to get this stuff off my head. And this is what I want to talk about, guys. I'm very, very excited for this. And look, I encourage those of you who are unhappy or even angry about this just to give it time. I assert that there are a very good reason that this have been done. And the nature in which we understand about how things have been changed seems like very good, healthy options for the games. And that's all I want to talk about so far. Stay tuned. I'm going to make a separate video on each of the first reveals for the 3 factions, so look forward to that. I've got over the next week, a couple of guests coming in to talk about this kind of stuff. In fact, I have people coming in to record videos about things, and then this dropped after I organised it, which means suddenly I have people to talk about version 2 with, which will be a lot of fun. In the meantime, guys, thank you so much for watching. I'm going to try and lose this sore throat before I do any more videos because it is killing me. In the comment section, what do you like about this? What do you hate about this? Just please, if you are in the I am against this camp, please be civil in the comment section. In the meantime, guys, like and subscribe, like me on Facebook, follow me on Twitter, and I will catch you later.